All right, everyone, welcome in to the press conference for the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship presented by Barbasol. I'm Nate Perkins with the Disc Golf Network. I'll be asking questions today. And first off, we have FPO Tour Points leader Holyn Handley joining us today. Holyn, thanks so much for being here. How's it feeling out there? I just saw you walk up the 18th playing a practice round. How does it feel to be in Lynchburg?
Feels good. I definitely, after Worlds last year, feel like I've got a lot of unfinished business on these courses. But, trying to draw on that experience and make corrections, play the wind better this week, hopefully. But, the course is looking great. We'll just have to see how this wind holds up.
Well, before I unpack that a bit and talk about the memories from Worlds last year, I want to talk a little bit about the Throw Pink Championship. When you reflect back on your performance, I was there when you took the double on hole 1 and followed it up with a couple tough holes on 2 and 3. But from your perspective, what comes to mind when you think of a 13th place finish at Throw Pink?
Yeah, obviously I'm not really happy with 13th. I think considering how I started, it was pretty good to salvage that. I basically had the worst start you could possibly have to a tournament, and that's how Winthrop is. You can shred it one day and then play your worst round of the year the next, because the shots aren't that complicated, but if you do happen to miss a shot here and there, and in my case missing 3 mandos in 3 holes, it's really, really punishing and really hard to recover. But I'm proud of how I stayed in it and I kept pushing, even though I had 1 good round and then probably 2 mediocre rounds. And looking back, and if I hadn't gone 7 up through 3, is like I probably could have gotten a top 5. But it's good practice in handling some diversity.
Well, Holyn, it's essentially the toughest question to answer in golf is when it doesn't go right, what happened, right? You'll have players asking, you'll have family and friends asking, and you've always kind of looked at the short term when we ask you that question. Are you ever looking at the end of this season and wondering if there is actually something that is happening to your game?
I think that's the easiest thing to assume. I think it's very easy to go down this rabbit hole of do I still have the shots? And I think I definitely do. My practice rounds for the last couple months have been great, so the shots are still there. It is the thing I'm really trying to focus on is staying fearless. I think my putting looked really great this past weekend because I was able to be fearless and focused going into every shot. So trying to apply that to all of my game. I think with Throw Pink too, it had been a minute since we played in heavy winds, and I don't think there were a lot of times where I put a disc up in the air and it reacted very differently from what I was expecting. So I think being a little smarter with some of those reads and being better committed to my angles and staying really smooth, that would have made a huge difference and can make a huge difference this weekend. I think it's important to zero in on what are controllable things that I can work on right now and not allow myself to kind of spiral into oh my God, my game's gone, because it's not. And I think, I've kind of been alternating good weekend, bad weekend here, because you had the top 5 over at D-Glow and then kind of a bad weekend, but then getting a podium the following weekend. So I don't feel like my game's a little roller coastery right now, but the shots are there. It's all just staying focused and fearless, I think.
And you said when you rolled up to the course here that you had some memories surface. What are some moments that you recall from your battle at the World Championships here last year?
Yeah, I recall playing really well at New London and not so great at Ivy, which was kind of the opposite of what I had expected. Generally, I tend to play better on the more open courses. And then that being kind of a mess on that final day. I hadn't expected the kind of nerves that I would feel being in that position, and I didn't handle them as well as I would have wanted to, but I think playing Ivy again and kind of looking at this OB's tight. Yeah, the wind adds a lot of chaos. There's going to be times where I'm not going to have such tight control over shots, and so I'm really just trying to focus on let's keep it simple. Let's stay committed to our angles. Let's stay committed to our aiming points. Let's give ourselves the opportunity to score well, and let's not make the most egregious mistakes.
Well, regardless of what anyone says out there, you won the Tour Points title this year, and you are heading into the championship with the 1-stroke lead over Missy Ganon. I believe 2 over Owen and maybe Silva, maybe 3 over Silva. But what is that like? I know it's a unique situation. Are you at all, thinking about those strokes that you have, or how is that going to play into this week's performance?
Yeah, I mean, when a couple strokes over those players is certainly not comfortable, especially when you have 4 rounds left. So I'm treating it like we're all even, and I'm just going to try to focus on myself and put up the best scores I can.
And what do you make of the changes over at the New London course? It's kind of been the talk amongst the players is that the changes that Heinold and McBeth put in over there have kind of changed the dynamic of the difficulty, and they feel like it might be one of the hardest courses in the world. Where are you at on it?
Yeah, I think it definitely plays a lot harder than it did last year. I think there's a lot longer holes. There's some really tight gaps that if you happen to miss, with it being a pretty fresh cut, some pretty fresh cut fairways, they can be quite punishing. But it's also another one of those that could be really scoreable. If you're dialed and you're hitting the initial gap on all of the tee shots, like there's the potential to score really, really well. So I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
And what would it mean for you to win the Tour Championship? Where does this tournament kind of sit on your list of goals?
I mean, it's definitely high up there. Getting the points, winning the points is one thing, but no one really remembers who wins the points. They remember who win the championship. And especially with kind of the slow stretch of golf I've had, a couple close almost wins, but not quite closing it out on the final day. I think it would give kind of maybe shut some people up a little bit and definitely give me some confidence going into next year.
Well, Holyn, thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate you and looking forward to seeing you battle some of your friends. And as I say that, I want to ask one more question, actually, about the dynamic in general about competing against these women, Missy, Owen, Silva. You play with them every single week. Like, what is that dynamic like playing against your friends for titles and this week, like massive purses?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think definitely I want to beat my friends more than maybe I want to beat other players. So we definitely have like that friendly kind of competition with one another, a little bit of trash talking with one another. But in terms of on course, off course, I think we do a pretty good job of keeping it separate. Celebrating each other's wins and such, and then there's always next week. So it's never one weekend we're putting like too much on. So it's mostly fun.
Well, Hong, it's going to be a fun time watching you battle those girls, and thanks for your time here. Best of luck this week.
Thanks.
All right, now got Missy Ganon, our FPO champion here from last weekend. Missy, reflecting back on that week, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Man, that final round was such a crazy, like, I didn't even know who was going to win, and I'm out there trying to throw the shots, and I'm like, at some point I have to kind of come to terms with the fact that, like, it could come down to the final hole, and I mean, that's what everybody kind of hopes for in terms of the people that are, like, watching, but for me, I'm, just sort of trying to stay focused, stay in the moment, and, like, there were even a couple times during that final round that I was like, I don't care if I win. And just trying to, like, take pressure off of myself. And, like, if the season were to have ended that day, I would have been so proud of what I've accomplished. And so I think that's more where that came from. I obviously did care, but I think it was more of a way for me to kind of stay calm and just chill out and not worry about the result and just try to stay focused and see what happens. And, a lot unfolded in the last few holes that I could have never expected, and it all worked out kind of in my favor. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. That final round to me was just kind of a crazy roller coaster.
Yeah, the tournament in general, Missy, was probably one of the more difficult ones I've ever seen for FPO because of how consistent the wind was and just how challenging it made the course.
Yeah.
But there was something about that final day with the swirling wind that you just couldn't get a read, and I want to ask you about, I guess, in general, the timing of the entire round. When you're in those moments, does it ever get difficult for you to have to kind of wait so long to throw your shot because everyone is being extra deliberate because of the pressure, the weight of the title, and also just how difficult the course is?
Yeah, I would agree that it did feel like a bit slower than normal. I don't think that anybody on our card is particularly a slow player, but it just felt like everybody was being way more deliberate.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that people were, like, taking too much time. I don't really know. It kind of, because I couldn't really focus on any of that. I was just sort of trying to think about my own shot and what I'm going to do next. And so honestly, it didn't really bother me that other people were taking long too, because I was sitting there, watching them, but also, looking at my lie as much as I could and trying to figure out what I was going to do, and sort of like reading the wind, looking around, looking at the feather, the banners and the trees, and just trying to, again, stay in my own lane. So, yeah, it certainly felt like everybody felt really tense, and even my body feels it. It's not necessarily because I was, like, from my throws. I think the wind just makes everybody tighten up, and, like, I must have just been, like, so tense all around because my shoulders were sore, and, like, it was just kind of wild afterwards to just sort of, like, take a deep breath and, like, let my body relax after, honestly, 4 rounds of that, but especially that final round. It was really intense for a lot of people.
Well, my last question concerning last week is actually a moment that happened on the 17th green. Anneli, the Estonian, she laid up a putt that she could have run for a birdie to get one stroke closer to you going into the 18th. Do you recall that? And when that happened, were you aware of the scores and kind of asking yourself why she would lay up in that situation?
My main focus was Silva, and maybe that's not a good thing, because I wasn't necessarily aware of that. Anneli, like, got on the island, and that I was like, okay, that's could be a problem, and I guess after I missed the island, I figured in my head I was probably going to get up and down for a 4, but then that also didn't turn out that way. Because of the winds again, I didn't even want to run that putt. I honestly, wasn't really aware of her. I just knew that I had a little bit of a cushion and probably would still have a little bit of a cushion going into 18. And I was playing 18 really well. And even after an OB stroke on 18, I still got up and down for par. So it was just, again, I think it was just kind of crazy for everybody. Nobody could kind of keep track, especially given that, like, 15, 16 happened, and I'm just like, what is happening? How is this even? I did not expect to go into 17 with as many strokes as I did. But it's really hard to keep track of more than one player. And yeah, I don't know. Again, I don't know from Annalie's perspective, what was going on in her mind, but or if she even knew what was going on. But I think that just is a sort of evidence of the fact that everybody was sort of like in a little bit of a tizzy because it just was, there was so much going on, and it was such a wild day. So yeah, I don't know. I'm glad that she laid up, obviously. Yeah. But, I don't fault her for it either. The wind on 17 was wild. The OB is so close behind, and I don't know. Again, I'm just thankful that it all worked out the way that it did, I guess.
Well, thank you for that. And, moving into the Tour Championship, forgive me, but you have 2 or 3 Tour Championship titles. That's 3. That's what I thought. And you've won more than anybody else has. Oh, and from my memory, this was kind of the win at Hornets Nest many years back was one of the big ones in your career, and kind of set you in a different category of talent when you were making those distance putts during that final round. What do you think it is about the Tour Championship that causes you to start firing on all cylinders?
I don't know that it's necessarily just about the Tour Championship, but I think in my mind, I'm looking forward to the off season, but I'm not ready to be there yet. And I think in my mind, I feel like I'm like thinking about more, hey, I've only got a couple events left. Let's just like leave it all out there. It's kind of like the same mentality of like, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I'll chill when I'm there, but right now it's not that time, and I have to just push through whatever I'm feeling physically, mentally, and just do it, because I don't know how, you can't predict the future. You don't know what it holds for you. I'm just thankful to be in the position that I'm in and able to compete, and I don't know when that will end, so let me just put it all out there and see what I can do. And I think that that's just what I've been doing every season. Is I'm just so thankful and grateful to have these opportunities to compete on the biggest stages, and so like let's just go all out, and then I'll be able to chill when it's all over.
Well, can you kind of touch on the dynamic of playing a big tournament in Throw Pink, traveling up here to Virginia? It was only 3.5, 4 hours, but then the short turnaround before such another big event. You have 3 days to practice 2 courses. One of them has been altered quite a bit. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, I can't believe we're starting tomorrow. To be honest, I feel like I just got here. I've gotten good practice rounds at both courses, but it's wild. I wasn't even really able to like let Throw Pink settle in and sink in. So, but it's okay. It's maybe a good thing. Hopefully I'm keeping that momentum from last week and being able to just go right into this week and keep it going. So yeah, like I said, I'm pushing through and trying to rehab my body as best as I can, and just be as prepared as I possibly can in the short turnaround, and try not to put too much pressure on myself, and just let it all out, and leave it all out on the course. So it's crazy. I can't believe we're starting tomorrow, but I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really good show for everybody, especially having the 2 different courses. We're used to having only one course for the championship, so to be able to sort of almost has like a world's vibe, not only because we had Worlds here last year, but just because I think that having these 2 courses are really going to test everybody's skill across the board. How are you in the woods? How are you in the open, in the wind? And I think it's going to really pay off for the person that's the most consistent and the most well-rounded.
Can you touch on some of the discs that you're using out there when you're preparing for this tournament, and the difference between New London and here, and how that bag kind of changes between the 2 courses?
Yeah, out here I'm basically only throwing Captain's Thrashers off the tee, a nice overstable distance driver, and kind compared to New London. Maybe I throw a few out there, maybe my more beat-in ones, but I'm throwing, again, my cicada, my slow speed stuff, and just leaning on, that technical golf with some slower discs. And I'm actually throwing my thrashers out there, so to get some nice flip-ups and turnovers and stuff like that. So it's really nice. I get to kind of throw my whole bag between the two courses in terms of like my go-to throwers. So it's a bit of a contrast, but it's honestly what I've been leaning on all year. And so it's nice to not have to like find a new disc that I think, would work better out here. I have plenty of beefy cap thrashes to work out here if we see some wind. But I think at this point in the season, it's like I know my bag, I'm really fine-tuned with all of them. And I think, it's just going to be kind of a culmination between what we saw out at Winthrop last week, and then also what I was throwing out at MVP the week before. So it's going to be a nice combination.
Well, Missy, how many holes is it going to take you to erase Holyn's lead?
I mean, one stroke, it literally could happen for a hole one. It's a tight par 4, and I think I have the same mindset as Holyn. Even when in regular play, if I have a deficit or a little bit of a lead, I try to pretend that it's 0-0 and just use that cushion when I need to, at the end. Just try to pretend like it's a normal event, that we're all starting at 0, and just try to throw my best shots and not think about it too much.
All right, guys, that's your number 1 ranked player in the world, Missy Ganon. Missy, thanks for your time. Best of luck this week.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, we're here now with U.S. DGC champ Anthony Barela. Anthony, it's just been a few days since you were crowned on the green of 18 back at Winthrop. Have you had any time at all to let that settle in?
Yeah, I mean, we celebrated Sunday night, and then Monday we were celebrating too, and then Tuesday morning we got up at 4:30 and drove all the way here to do the practice round, and then I feel like I've just been playing these courses since I got here the last 2 days. They're so long and hard.
Yeah, so I've heard nonstop from the players about how difficult New London is with the changes. Can you kind of touch on some of the specifics there and why these players feel that it's potentially one of the hardest courses in the world?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of tight pushing hyzer flip shots, so you can tell that McBeth designed it because that's I think his favorite shot to throw. So it's just, I don't know, the fairways are super tight. The par 4s are so long through the woods. You have to throw perfect shot after perfect shot if you want to get birdies out there. But I feel pretty comfortable with my game, my ability to throw those shots out there, so I'm pretty excited.
Well, what are you using for those shots that you mentioned, the hyzer stand-up? Is that a Athena slot or what
I'm going to be throwing cigars all over the place to that course.
Okay.
There's a ton of Luna shots too, and then just most importantly, just keeping it in the middle. It's not about getting too much distance, because if you get off the fairway at all there, you're cooked.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Luna, and I'm going to take us back to Winthrop once again, because why not like relive that a little bit? But the shot on 16, I feel like was one of the best of the day, really.
Yeah.
What's your memory of that moment, stepping up to the tee pad there? It was like pretty strong tail left to right.
Yeah.
Did you already know you were going Luna before you even got there, or was that a last-second decision? Talk about that.
Yeah, I was throwing my Malita, I think the first 2 rounds, and it just kept turning over to the right too much, and then I had that brand new Luna in my bag, and then I just yanked it a little bit the day before, and then I knew with that strong crosswind, if I got it on hyzer, it wasn't going to flip over at all, and then it just went dead straight and ended up landing in the bullseye. And then Paul made that 100-foot putt, but I was already in the bullseye, so I was like fine with it. But I don't know how I would feel if I had a 30-footer after that.
Well, what was the dynamic like after Paul made that putt? I was actually walking up to the 17th tee with you guys. Was there ever a moment that you like congratulated him on the putt, or was there any exchange before the tee shot on 17?
He like after he made it, he pretty much took off to the next tee pad, and then I was like pretty slow to get over there. I actually got up to the tee pad after Ricky threw a shot, and Paul told me, he's like, Ricky already threw, by the way, and I was like, okay, what? Okay. So like that was what happened right before I threw that shot in 17, but I don't know. I just kind of just threw that away and locked it in right there that second. So,
well, my last question about US is about the dynamic of playing with, basically your hero, right? What is that like? Yeah, I brought it up in the interview. First time we saw you on camera, you were a little kid and you're caddying for Paul at Fountain Hills. I mean, what is that dynamic actually like to be battling with the greatest disc golf athlete of all time, and to come out on top to win your first US?
Yeah, it's like a dream come true to have him like just playing with me, and then like off the course we're obviously pretty good friends, but as soon as like it's time to lock in like that, like we weren't really talking much like down the stretch, and it was just like it really felt like I was playing like Paul McBeth, like in his McBeast mode, and just to win the tournament in that fashion is just it's perfect.
Well, we'll be reflecting on that one for years to come, Anthony. And I want to ask you, how do you kind of refocus for the Tour Championship here with such a brief turnaround?
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty used to this, honestly, like traveling from tournament to tournament. I think 2 4-day events in a row is pretty tough, but I mean, I'm just going to go, me and Paul are about to go film a Luna battle at New London right now, so that's going to be my last practice round there. So I feel pretty comfortable. Everyone's kind of scrambling around this week, and everyone's had the same amount of practice, so I'm not too worried about it.
So how much have the Luna battles in the past been predictors for how well you can play that track? And do you think that you could be competitive with just the Luna out there?
I don't think so, because the holes are a little far on the MPO layouts. But it's just like, it's more of a fun thing than anything, because we get to go shred the FPO courses with our Lunas and just have the blast. There's really not much of a correlation with the Luna battles to how we play for the week.
Well, what's the ceiling out there? What is someone going to get to double digits at the New London?
I have no idea. I mean, I want to say no, but someone always shoots an insane round every week, so I'm sure someone will shoot double digits, and hopefully it's me.
Yeah. And where are you at physically, Anthony? Are you still ripping around here at this open course at Ivy, or are you at all kind of tentative with where your body's at?
I feel like there's a bunch of places I can get aggressive out here, so I feel great. I feel good, and I'm going to be throwing a lot of hard shots out here, and then a lot of down-tempo shots at that course. But there is a bunch of big sidearms, so yeah, I feel good. I feel healthy, ready to go.
And what would it mean for you to get back-to-back wins at U.S. and Tour Championship?
Yeah, these last, I don't even know. Like, that's just unreal to even think about, winning these 2 tournaments back-to-back. But I think I'll give it a good chance this week. All
right, Anthony, thanks so much for your time, and look forward to seeing you ripping these courses up.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, we're here now with Paul McBeth. And Paul, I'd love to start by reflecting on last week. When you think about that final round, where do you feel like it really went wrong for you?
I guess my first true mistake was hole 10, playing the layup, and just letting it leak out of bounds, which that hole I already know I'm conceding a stroke by playing the birdie route instead of going for it across. And that kind of, like, normally I'd lay up that putt on hole 9, but knowing that he was in the circle and that I was going to more than likely give up a stroke on 10 because they're going for it, that's why I ran that putt on 9.
Yep.
Thankfully made it. And then 10, just made the mistake of letting it get in the wind and go left. So that's my first mistake. And then he gave me a lot of opportunities on the back 9.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't get my tee shots close enough to make a putt, because that was probably my strength all weekend. But at the end, it just, I don't know, kind of fell apart on the tees.
Well, the putt on 16, even though it wasn't to come back and win the tournament, it has to be up there with one of your more iconic moments. Look back on the replays of that and the double fist pump and running it down. What are those moments like for you when you give the crowd and all the fans like exactly what we all need to keep the hope alive of the tournament not being over yet?
Yeah, I mean, that moment I knew, like, he parked it right before, and so I knew I can't gain a stroke there. So I have to keep pace with him. And it was so windy. I don't know if they could tell in the coverage, but I leaked mine a little bit to the right. I was making the mistake earlier in the week of going into the hazard left, and I wanted to give myself a chance, give myself a birdie putt. Definitely gave myself a chance from a long ways away, but as I was walking up after I threw my tee shot, the whole gallery on 16 was starting to walk over to 17, 18, probably get into position to watch AB win. So that kind of gave me a little bit of motivation on top of it, of already knowing if I'm within 3 on 17, that can evaporate instantly. You know, you miss it one time, you're more than likely taking a 5. And if, someone puts it on, they're close. That's a 3-stroke swing right there. So if I could stay within 3, we could be potentially tied going into 18. So that was my thought process on that. There was no laying it up or trying to put it close. It was put it in the basket or you're losing.
17, were you going for the ace there?
Yeah, I was just talking about this. So this is like the only thing I wish I could change was from the tee box. I saw his shot. He got green flag, and he was well inside the white paint. I didn't realize I was looking at the white paint for the other pin location. So I thought he was like 18 feet away, because how that green shapes, it kind of goes outwards away from the tee box.
Yeah.
To where you don't see most of the circle from the tee box where we are because the hay bales. So I'm like, he's 18 feet away. I need to be within 2, because a birdie bogey is pretty easy on 18 there. It happens all the time. But very rarely is someone birdie and someone takes a double on 18. So I knew I had to be within 2 to have a chance to tie, push to a playoff. And in my mind, he just put it 18 feet away inbounds. He's going to get his meter.
Yep.
He's not missing that. So the only way I could get a stroke was try to ace it.
Yep.
And I didn't care where second was. I knew I had some strokes back there. So, that basket sits right in front of you. So I went for it. But after looking at the film, seeing he was like 36 feet away, I could have birdied and then still been within 2 strokes. Yep. But, that's kind of, it's a blessing and a curse to have the paint out there and just misread it like that. So that's one thing I wish I could change, is to play it more for a birdie. But, I tried to throw it in.
Well, thanks for reflecting on that tournament for us. And moving forward into the Tour Championship, can you kind of touch on your role in the design of these courses and in particular the changes at New London that are gaining quite the reputation?
Yeah, New London, it was a fun project. Kenny Palmer was the one that he used to work for the Parks and Recs. He's a big reason disc golf is even here in Bedford County and Lynchburg in general. So he kind of opened the door for me to do course design, and that was kind of the first project where he got a green light to do, make a world-class course. Let's build something historic here. We want to run a major one day, and that was it. And unfortunately, during that time, he was diagnosed with brain cancer or brain tumor, and that's what ended up, shortening his time here with us. So the original course was designed with him still going through his chemo and all that stuff. And so it was sad to see that course go, but we were very thankful that Bedford jumped on board and said, we want to put money into another course. Same property, same this, same that. And so this time around, they were basically like, we'll cut whatever, we'll do whatever, like, let's bring a world-class course here. Because before, there were some restrictions, like, hey, let's not touch this, let's not touch that, let's do as minimal as we can while still trying to build this course. So now they kind of went a little bit, they pushed it a lot more, allowed us to make bigger fairways, better greens, better this, better that. I mean, people see this weekend, like, we're in the woods, but it does not look like it with how much they've cleared out and cleaned up, and you won't see any stumps in the fairways. It's incredible to be out there. So I was very fortunate to design this beginning to end. It was a lot longer than the previous designs. They did that, I think, the end of COVID, like the pandemic and stuff. So that one was done very quick. This one, they took their time, I think about 8 months to do it. And it looks beautiful, but it definitely has that challenge. And I've heard nothing but good things, which is, I feel like, not common. So I'm glad we did something right.
Well, can you kind of enlighten us on your vision for how challenging a disc golf course should really be in the woods? And do you feel like this is the kind of reaction we should be getting from players, that every hole is hard to birdie and that the birdies are actually rewarding and memorable?
Yeah, so the course design is to challenge the top players in the world. I don't want it to be easy. I want people to have to throw great shots to get birdies. Good shots, you can get pars. Bad shots, you're more than likely going to get a bogey or worse. And great shots is what you need to throw to get birdies. And I feel like we did a good job with that out there. And we also want to, I say we, with Nate's help on doing some things, and the Bedford Parks and Rec had some influence and some ideas. But we want to challenge players in different aspects. Like, there's some holes where distance driver is needed off this tee in a tight wooded par 4, or some of them are a little shorter, but the game plan is like you want to go mid placement and then you can blast your driver or fairway or whatever you need. And then kind of open up and a little bit more technical too. But we want to challenge all sorts of aspects of the game, and the skill level, and make players think before they throw. Because so many courses just get your distance driver and you're either going to throw it this high hyzer, you're going to throw it this anhyzer, and there's not much thought involved in, like, where do I want to place my disc besides just in the fairway, and then I'll go from there. So just really want to challenge the players, not only just with their skill set, but mentally as well.
Now, where would you say New London ranks in difficulty compared to some other difficult tracks around the world, such as Tampere Disc Golf Center and Northwoods Black?
I've heard it's up there with them. I think we're going to get a better idea this weekend, because I've never scored around there. This is actually the first time I've truly played it, is getting out here, because they were still working on it. And when I did play it, there was still a lot of stumps, a lot of leaves, a lot of trees they still had to move. So it's kind of like the last, all right, let's see what we need to take out before it's ready. So I honestly don't know. I've heard people think 5 to 6 will be a hot round. Wow. And I've heard someone like Nate Heinold say double digits is going to be possible. So we'll see. Yeah, I mean, he created Northwood Black. He might have a little bit more insight than I do, but it is, I feel like every hole you can bogey probably much easier than you can birdie.
Season's almost over, Paul. One more tournament left. Where's your mindset at? What would it mean for you to win Tour Championship?
This would be a fun one to win, especially with the stroke disadvantage. That's something Ganon has definitely earned throughout the year, and it makes it for a different kind of element that I'm already chasing to start. It usually seems like it's a final round kind of thing, so maybe that'll spark something early, and might be something where I'll learn, like, this is how I have to start my tournaments. It's like, just feel like I'm already 4 back or 3 back or whatever it is. So I think that is more exciting for me. Is it's a different kind of situation than the title's obviously big, but I think the points is pretty cool to. Yeah. I want to earn the points at some point. But yeah, I mean, this is a big money tournament too. It's not a bad one to stumble upon a win for.
I want to ask you one thing about the putt that you found last week. It seemed like you were able to tap into those 50 and 60 footers a bit more often than we've seen in several years. What did you key in on there?
I think it's just finding a good routine, finding a good pace. And I realized I was forcing a lot of my putts. I was like trying to just jam them and push them really hard into the basket instead of just letting the disc do the work. You know, just get on a flat plane and let it glide. And that's what putters are meant to do, is glide, at least most of them. Some are, you know, people putt really hard. They want the glideless ones. But I like to let the putter just float and let it and control the angles, the height. So I feel like I really found that tempo and that speed that I need to maximize those distances. And, yeah, I just felt like I was just trying to force him too much, and I just need to trust it, and I don't need to putt it that hard to get it to carry there.
And the groove that you found over the past few months, Paul, where would you kind of rank that level of play with some of your all-time moments, such as like your 2015 season? Do you feel like that you could be competitive with that version of yourself?
I think if I was there, I probably would win something like USDGC this week or last weekend, because I think I would have capitalized on some of those mistakes that AB was making. Like, he was throwing good shots, but he was making mistakes where I could have gained strokes. I don't think I would have done that then, but I still had that mindset of like, I mean, with that putt with 16, it's like, I'm not out of it. I can keep going. I just need to keep putting pressure on him. Just stay here. And he never made a big mistake, but he was leaving the door open. To where if he did make a mistake like Misty Island on 17, I was right there. I was gonna make a move and do something. But I think back then I would have capitalized sooner. So I think I just need to continue to work on the consistency. I need to get in touch with my discs more. I think that was a big thing I was missing at USDGC. I didn't have a good relationship with like my distance drivers. So like 10, I didn't have a disc that I could trust that I could go across there. So I didn't feel comfortable there. You know, I didn't feel comfortable on 12. I didn't feel comfortable on 3. A lot of the big distance shots down the hills or something I have to push over 500. So I think I need to find that more and find that relationship with my game, because that used to be like one of my strengths is controlling distance drivers at a long range. So that is definitely something I want to work on. But then, you know, continue to iron out the other things and just get that consistency and that control over the long distance shots.
Well, Paul, thanks so much for your time, and best of luck chasing down the tour title with that stroke deficit.
Thank you.
All right, here now with Ricky Wysocki. Rick, first I wanted to reflect on last week's event. When the dust was settled, you found yourself in second place. Talk about what second feels like to you last week.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, once, you know, there's a lot of I went through there's just so many things that can happen, you know, so it's, you know, middle of the round, looked like I was pretty far out of it with, you know, being 4 or 5 back, but I know anything can happen, especially on 17. I mean, we've seen it happen year over year, year after year. That hole can ruin someone's USDGC, and that can happen on almost every hole. So the amount of strokes back really isn't really. I mean, anything can happen. So it's like you can't really fully give up, but at the same time, it's like with the caliber of players, AB and Paul being in front there, it's not like you can't expect them to just blow up. So. Yeah, I mean, just things happened, and just, you know, got some bad breaks and bad shots down the stretch that, you know, caused me to not really be in contention come hole 16, 17, 18, which is really where you need to be to have a chance to win.
Well, Rick, there was something special that happened during that tournament that I'd actually never seen before. It was during round 3. You were several over par on the front 9, and the crowd legitimately willed you back into it, starting there, I think, on the 7th. Can you just kind of touch on what it means to you to feel the crowd want you to find your groove again on the course?
Yeah, I think, it kind of works both ways where, like, whenever you're not playing good, you miss a putt, go out of bounds, something like that, and the crowd's like, oh, and they're with you on that down moment. And so it can compound in like bad shot, bad break, and so they feel that, and so their emotions are kind of like my emotions, and they're kind of tied together because I feed off it. I feel like more than most players, so it kind of worked against me. But then once I kind of got a little bit of momentum, and that's why I talk about that so much, is because not just momentum with me, but with the crowd as well, because they can, one shot leads to another, and then it starts, building this kind of snowball effect where, I'm more motivated to throw good shots to entertain the crowd and feel like they're kind of part of the home court advantage, so to say, and as close as we can get to disc golf. So yeah, they definitely pulled me out of a slump that I was having mid-round, and I went from 4 over to slowly back to even, and then a couple under par, which was around like that when you're 4 over through 9 holes is it's tough, especially at Winthrop, because you can just keep going down the rabbit hole of getting bogeys. And I was just thankful to have them to cheer me up and take a little bit of a positive on a tough day.
Well, Rick, you almost went back-to-back tour titles at Nevin. You gave us one of the more exciting finishes on the 18th at Nevin a couple years back with those big forehands taking down Isaac Robinson, and then last year, great battle with Ganon Buhr. You actually opened the door for him. He walked through it. So you've been there, you've won them, and you've lost them. Can you kind of touch on what this title really means for the tour players?
Yeah, I think I really like, as I've said in years past, I really like the fact that the better you play throughout the season, you get an advantage into this tournament. It was fully deserved. Ganon played the best, and obviously down the line, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. Because, yeah, you play a whole season, so you deserve to have an advantage. If you were the most consistent and best player throughout the year, you deserve to have strokes for the final event. And I think that I love to see that format, and I think that it's something that is awesome. I think the years that I've won it haven't been like that, but I would have loved to see it, and I love to see it now. And so I think that it just rewards the best players in the world week in and week out, and I really like that.
Well, there's a few things on the line this week for you. One of them being the streak, of course, of an Elite Series or better, at least one in a season. And another one that has been mentioned this year is the race to $1 million in career earnings. Right now, you're all-time leader. Can you kind of touch on what it means for both of those to continue the streak and to get closer to that $1 million mark?
Yeah, I mean, there's always, as you develop in your career, there's always milestones and there's new goals that you have, and so, yeah, I mean, looking forward to the future, those are definitely things that kind of go hand in hand. If I win tournaments like I know I can and I'm very capable of, then the money's going to come and the accolades are going to follow it. But yeah, I mean, I don't treat it really any different. It's more of I'm putting myself in contention each week. I mean, I've gotten a lot of top 3s, top 4s this year, and almost more than any other year, even when I'm winning. So it's kind of a weird year. It's been a weird year for me that that I've had a ton of top 5 finishes, and just the weeks that I'm not there is I'm injured or something's just it's tough, and maybe I'm not playing my best. There's a lot of variables, right? Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that's, it weighs on you. You want to keep streaks going, and especially, that long, 14, 15 years, it's something that would be really cool to continue keeping that moving forward, and especially the money thing. With as new as our game is, you want to be on the forefront setting records. Of course, it'll be broken eventually, but yeah, it'd be cool to be the first one.
Well, Rick, there's been a lot of conversation about the difficulty out at New London, and you're actually a player I think of when we say that this is one of the hardest courses in the world, that you like to laugh that off and say, well, every hole's birdieable. But what do you really think about the new changes out there, and just how difficult of a course is it?
Yeah, New London, the new holes they've come up with are definitely more challenging than the past. It's way more wooded, way more tight, way more narrow. And, scores are going to be way different, I think, than the previous course, just because there's just a lot of tunnel shots where there's absolutely zero room for error. And you go through that course and play enough tunnel shots like that, you're not going to hit every gap perfectly. So there's going to be lots of scrambling, and there's going to be a lot of holes where there's trees right off the gap, 20, 50 feet, 100 feet off the gap, which is not super common on the Pro Tour to have trees that close to the tee pad. And there's still a window, but it's just, if you don't hit the window, you're hitting the tree 50 feet off the tee, and that's pretty much an automatic bogey, and that at best. And so there's, I would say, 5 or 6 holes like that, maybe more. And so it just puts such a premium on driving. I think courses like that, if you don't get off the tee, I mean, you could say that off any course, but this course more than any other course, if you get through the initial gap and get down semi towards the fairway, you're taking bogey out of play, and now you're looking at par or birdie. And so I think that's the biggest thing with that change, is that there's bogey, double bogey written all over any hole if you're not lacing shots. And that's hole after hole. That's not just one hole or 2 holes. That's, like I said, 5 or 6 holes. So scores are going to be tough, tight. Under par is a good round. There's definitely holes that are very birdieable as well. I mean, I think hot scores, maybe 6, 7 under at most. Someone will probably try find a way to shoot more, but I would be surprised to see a double-digit round, no doubt.
Well, talk about some of the discs that you're using to shape some of those longer, straighter shots through the woods.
Yeah, I'm definitely throwing a lot different discs than out here at Ivy Hill. Out here is more overstable forehands, overstable backhands. Over there, it's a completely different skill set. So you got to have more understable kind of hyzer flips, landing flat. You don't have the luxury of throwing big hyzers like you do out here. So more like straight buzzes, straight onyxes, and even beat up distance drivers, because you need a lot of those holes. You need some distance going straight, and even like left to right turns. So you can definitely beat up discs out there to just carry straight and follow those tight fairways. And I got my first round over there just earlier today. So definitely a lot to learn in a short period of time. But I'm excited for the challenge. It's going to be fun.
Well, Rick, we saw you have a bit of an ankle issue at MVP a few weeks back. You looked pretty healthy down in Winthrop, but where would you say you're at?
Yeah, no, I feel great. The ankle's starting to really heal. Winthrop, I didn't feel it too much. I would say I was like 90%. I'm back probably like 95% now. So, so it's good to be close to 100%. And for me, that's something that's huge to, have my body be 100%. That way I can play to the best of my ability without any inhibition or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, it's something that where I'm excited to play this week and really feel like I can play my best.
All right, guys, that's Ricky Wysocki. He's looking for his first win of the season to keep the record-setting streak alive. Rick, thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.
Here now with Brian Cole. And Brian, I know it's tough to leave Oregon. It's such a good time of year to be up there. But I got here to Virginia. It's not so bad, is it? How are you doing?
No, it's beautiful out here. This is my first time to Lynchburg in Bedford County. Didn't make it out to Worlds last year, and yeah, you're right. It's tough to leave Oregon, but it was pretty dreary and raining, and it's beautiful out here. Beautiful country, and the weather's just perfect this week. So happy to be here.
But can you kind of touch on the decision of the tour to move the tour championship out of Charlotte and land here in Lynchburg?
Sure, absolutely. Obviously we had Worlds here last year, and it was a very successful event. So we didn't want to let that momentum go. We wanted to come back and give fans and players a second opportunity to come out here and watch the course, play the course. And we got a lot of really good support from the city of Lynchburg, Bedford County, and Nate and the Ledgestone team do a really great job running the event, collaborating with the local stakeholders here. Obviously, there was the redesign at New London, so as soon as that puzzle piece kind of fell into place, we knew it was the right place to bring our Tour Championship.
When they're redesigning holes out there and it's going to be played at a Disc Golf Pro Tour event, what kind of role does the tour play in either approving it or consulting them on some of those changes?
Sure. Yeah, the Disc Golf Pro Tour has the final approval sign-off for all of the events that come onto tour. Obviously, we're working with Nate and his team who run several events on tour, so there's some trust built up there that we know that they can deliver a good course. So we kind of let them run with it in the off-season, and they've built Northwood Black into a wonderful course, and I think that Ivy strikes me as a similar course, similar new construction where we've got a lot of new holes out there. So Disc Golf Pro Tour gets an opportunity to review it, look at the scoring separation, just kind of vet that it makes sense for the tour. But at this point, we've got a lot of trust built in each other as two event teams that are running events on tour. So.
Can you talk about the tour's decision to alter the stroke separation? I believe it might have compressed a little bit. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, so we compressed the starting advantage. Like Ricky was mentioning, we want to retain that bonus for your season-long performance. So there's still an 8-stroke advantage this year. Last year it was a 10-stroke advantage for the leader in points, but we've compressed it a little bit. So there's less ground to make up if you were the bottom seed there. But we wanted to make it more competitive at the top, and then also looking towards the middle of the field and the payout structure. Mm-hmm. So players that are in the middle of the field have an opportunity to kind of jump from, if they were starting with a 4-stroke advantage, they're aiming to jump to that 5-stroke or 6-stroke advantage tier to increase their payout.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what do you feel is the long-term vision of the Tour Championship for the Disc Golf Pro Tour, like as far as venue goes and even the payout as well?
Yeah, we continue to be the highest paying out event in the season. So, $30,000 to first place for both MPO and FPO this year. For the venue, this is our first or most recent change. We've changed venues a couple times over there in Charlotte, and then had a different venue earlier in the Pro Tour history. But we always want to be at just a premier venue that we can celebrate the skill of the players throughout the season, and that we can welcome fans on site and really be excited about it. So it's it's a combination of what are the fans excited about, what are the players excited about, and what's a competitive, challenging layout that we can really see some of the best golf all year be played on.
All right, everyone. That is Brian Cole, Tour Director of the Disc Golf Pro Tour. Brian, thanks so much for your time. And that is a wrap.
Thanks, Nate.
We have two more. We have two. We are here now with mad scientist Nate Heinold. Nate, can you talk about how you are in this situation running the Tour Championship for the Disc Golf Pro Tour?
Yeah, that's, last year during Worlds, I was laying in bed and it was like 10 o'clock and Jeff called me, Jeff Spring, and we had been planning to do a playoff event here in Lynchburg next year, or this year, but for next year. And Jeff said, hey, do you want to do the Tour Championship? And that morning I had gotten the call from Bedford, and they said, hey, we're getting rid of half the New London course. So the same day that Jeff asked this, I knew that New London was half going away, and he needed a commitment like the next morning. And so I think I called Bedford that next morning and said, hey, I want to do the Tour Championship. I want to support the Tour. Can we have the course done in time? And they made a quick decision to say yes. And I said, well, it can't be just done. It has to be Tour Championship level, and they committed to it. And so I told Jeff that I would do it as long as we could do both courses. And he was a little leery because of the cell signal issue at New London, and so we've been working for a long time to get cell coverage there, and Verizon just finished a cell tower there a few weeks ago right in the park. And so pretty incredible to be able to see all of that come together, and now New London has some of the best cell coverage on tour. So
wow. Can you talk about how you pitch that to the city? How do you make them aware that this is worth it for them to invest in this course to bring the Tour Championship here?
It's I've been able to pitch a lot of communities on this, in Florida, of course, Peoria, Michigan, and Lynchburg, and I really pitch it from a perspective of long-term tourism. Yes, the event that comes is nice. Worlds last year had a $4.6 million economic impact, and this event with the amateur event will have hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not $1 million of economic impact. And so my pitch to them is you're going to get this little blip, but a lot of people are going to watch, and these courses can become destination courses for year-round tourism. And they have the numbers. I mean, last year during Worlds, the month of October or August saw a 25% increase in hotel sales taxes for that month of August. And there were no other big events happening last August. And so I think they looked at that event and said this was the primary driver. And so they have the data, and they have the hotel data and the restaurant data. And they say, well, we have money for tourism. Let's support the event, and let's support the infrastructure that comes with that.
Last week at Winthrop, we were walking up the fairway together. You looked at me, you said New London is the best course in the world and maybe the hardest course in the world. Can you elaborate on both of those? When
Paul and I talked about the vision for the course, I knew that when I first got the call that it was going away, I was pretty upset, especially during Worlds. It was going to be this negative PR during Worlds, and even during the player meeting, people are putting up signs saying, save New London, and it was just a distraction. And so I was frustrated. Paul was more frustrated. He built the original and helped, with Kenny. But they assured me the land is amazing. You're going to get great land. And when I first walked it, I was just blown away. So I think it's a top 5 course in the world for sure. And difficulty, I don't think it's as hard as Northwood Black or maybe Tampere, but it's the 3rd or 4th hardest course in the world. I think I was so excited when I told you that on Sunday. I got a little amped up, but it's not much different than what I said on Sunday.
Yeah. Why is it that the players are having the reaction that they are, can you talk about maybe a few specific spots out there that might be giving them trouble?
I think what it really is that the fairways there are much wider than on Northwood Black. I look at, even hole 1 versus hole 1 at Northwood. The fairways are 2 to 3 times the length. But I think what it is that when the players step up to a par 4 or par 5, they just assume they're going to throw 11 speed, 12 speed, 10 speed. Some holes out there require a mid-range, and they require maybe even a putter for a par 4, which is probably not in their... They can't do it, right? They can't club down to that. But I think that's how it was designed to be sometimes a placement shot for the tee shot into a very tough second shot. I think that's where it's the distance control. Those fairways are fast, and so if you throw something on hyzer angle, it's going to skip into the rough. But I think the main thing that would give them trouble is if you hit early on a par 4, not as hard as Black, but almost impossible to save par.
And switching over here to Ivy, were there any significant changes? Did you go back to look at Worlds coverage and see anything that you didn't like for the player experience or the fan experience and implement a change for this week?
Yeah, I heard lots of feedback last year for Pro Worlds, obviously, for both courses. And I listened to feedback, listened to player feedback. The 3 main changes that I made on 17, I added some hay bales behind the basket. And that was mainly because I didn't want to see discs that stuck on the green that had slow speed scuttle out of bounds and then go back 100 feet to a drop zone. So I've already seen very positive reactions to that change. Hole 6, I loved hole 6 as it was, but especially in the summer, it was such a fast green. Nothing stuck at all. You had to land 50 feet short to stay, with a good putt. I didn't love that. I think when I designed that hole, I was here only in the spring both times, and then I was here in the fall when the grass was lush and green. So in August when we had Worlds, that green for hole 6 played so fast, and so we actually redesigned it, but I kept open the option to use 6 as it was. I decided to let 6 kind of be the wooded hole that it is. It's a massive 550-foot par 3. 1 or 2 trees could still go, and so that hole's going to play just hard to birdie. So I did change that. And then 14, when I first designed that hole, in my mind, I went back and forth so much on the basket where it was or putting it higher on the hill. All the voices that I had designing, that were walking and would look at it, Nate, you got to put it there. And I gave into that, and that was my decision still. I decided to put it there, but I knew that it could have fluky reactions, and it did. And so I don't want good shots to be punished. And so that's what happened there. And you just didn't see the aggression. You saw players just laying up putts long left or whatever. And so we moved the basket up the hill. You won't see the fluky, things now. So.
Well, thanks for that, Nate. And big picture question here. What do you feel is the number one thing that disc golf needs for that next catalyst for our next period of growth?
That's a great question. I've been planning Pro Worlds now for 5 months, and I went to the drawing board, just a blank slate, to try to find out what's it going to take to get 10,000 people on one day. What's it going to take to get disc golf into the mainstream? I think we're years away from that still, to where it's we're seeing the Coca-Cola Open. I think we're getting there, but what we've come up with for Worlds is that we want to be in schools. And so before Worlds, we're going to be in 12 schools, teaching 500 kids a day, giving away free tickets. And so that's going to draw people out to the event. We need to make it more family oriented. So at Worlds next year, we're going to have a zip line and a climbing wall and a Lego tent. And we're doing all kinds of things for families. And then we're going to have a mini course and an actual full-scale 18-hole mini course at Toboggan. But I think the other thing is we need to have affordable ticket prices. And so next year for Worlds, there's going to be a $4,000+ ticket. UC had a $15,000 ticket this year. So we're going to have that. But we're going to have $10 GA tickets that have very limited access on the weekend at Toboggan. So you can go to the World Championships for $10. And so I think those 3 things, making it more accessible and getting things for kids, brings families out. When I was at Winthrop, I was blown away seeing all the kids there, and I think we need more of that. So
Nate, thanks for expanding on that, and thanks so much for all your work in the world of disc golf. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Ganon Buhr, first I want to reflect on last week's performance a bit. It's likely one of the hardest questions to answer in terms of golf, but where do you feel it went wrong for you?
I don't even know. Like, it was actually, I've been having a good stretch the last couple months, and I've gotten first or second at the past 7 events before that. So just playing really good. But at those 7 events, maybe only 1 or 2 of them, my game actually felt good. And I felt good going into USDGC. My game didn't feel shanky. I was putting good. My forehand was actually probably the best it's been all season. And I don't even know what happened. It felt like every time I got some momentum or got to a stroke swing hole, I don't know if it was the wind or if I was just getting some bad breaks at like the wrong time. Kind of started round 1. Like I had like one break that like was a 3-stroke swing, and it just kills your round, and it hurts so bad. And it felt like I'd work so hard, I'd get going. I was 8 down through 10 round 2, and then went like bogey, bogey, bogey. And it was like, and they were all in shots that I was going for birdies on. I was safe off the tee, or I was maybe had like a 35, 40 footer at OB and just happened to miss, or happened to just barely go OB, and that course is so punishing. So like, that's literally just how it goes out there. I mean, I feel like if you play certain holes good, you can win that tournament. And like, for example, I played the beach hole 2 over. I bogeyed it 3 times. And on all shots that were not that far off from being birdies, and it's like that's like 5 or 6 strokes at the end of the weekend that's just gone, and it's so hard to recover from, and that's just how it goes. I mean, I've been on the good side and the bad side of it, and yeah, I don't really know what to say. It was like kind of the first event in a while. I felt like it was almost out of my control. I just felt like I was throwing fine shots, but maybe like I said, the wind was just in my head, or just not executing when I needed to.
Well, how does a 7th place finish affect you emotionally? How does it affect your confidence?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't think it really affects my confidence at all, just because I knew like I was playing good. It'd be different if I like got 7th and like struggled to get it, where I was just shanking and then kind of just getting through the event. I've definitely played events like that where it's like I know I'm not going to win the tournament because my game feels so bad, but it wasn't like that, and so I'm not really too concerned about it. I feel pretty good going into this week, minus the lack of practice I've had out here, but I think it's not really in my head at all. I think I'm going to go out here with a clean slate, and it helps to have those starting strokes. I've heard like New London's super tough, so I think as long as I'm, not bogeying out there, I should be doing just fine.
Last year, you and Rick gave us one of the great battles, certainly in terms of a tour championship. He kind of opened the door during that final day. You walked through it. It was at Nevin for a couple years. It was at Hornets Nest. What do you make of the tour championship moving up here to Lynchburg versus down there in Charlotte?
So I always loved, in terms of the challenge, to be in the woods all 4 rounds and stuff like that. But I think definitely, like, just to grow it in general as an event, it helps to get out in the open here, to finish out here at the golf course, which is great for spectating, stuff like that. I think it just brings a little more, like, prestige to it. Coming down the stretch the last couple of days, especially just having 2 courses to play at, it's that much more of a challenge, and that's what you should have for the championship. I feel like this tournament's been a little, overlooked just because USDGC is always the week before. But I think this year it's going to be a little more highly valued.
And you've won almost every tournament there is to win out there, including the tour championship. And where do you kind of rank this event in terms of that prestige?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like right below a major. I mean, I'd put it like right below the least favorite major, I guess. So definitely higher than like an Elite Plus or a playoff event, just because I think, I mean, the tournament itself obviously rewards season-long performance as well, which I think is important this year. Didn't get as good as a buffer as I did last year, which I think is fair. I mean, it's kind of the tough part about this event is like how to format it to make it, fair, but also like interesting for the viewers. Because like last year, like Ricky and I kind of ran away with it. We were playing insane good disc golf, but when I think I started at 10 down, and then it was like 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, and then it was a bunch of people at 4, a bunch of people at 3. Now it's a lot more compact, and I only have 8. And then I think that people in like 2nd, 3rd, and 4th are only 1 back. So it's going to be a little bit tougher this year for me to, I guess, fend off more players. But I think that's just going to make it more exciting and make the win feel even more earned.
There's been a lot of talk about the difficulty the changes at New London have brought. Where do you kind of rank that course in terms of challenges throughout the season?
Well, I don't know. I haven't played it yet, so I'm going to play.
I haven't played it.
No, I just got in town.
How often does that happen? It's very rare.
Pretty rare.
Are you going to play it?
Yes, I'm going to play it right now.
You're headed to play it right now.
I'm going to just play Ivy either, I don't know, before or after a round, if I'm allowed to. So I looked at the caddy books, and I saw that Ivy didn't really change that much.
Yep.
I played okay at it last year at Worlds, but I knew that New London, I think like 14 of the holes are different.
Yeah.
And I heard it's like one of the hardest courses in the world. So definitely I was like, and considering we're playing it tomorrow too in the first couple rounds, I'm like, I want to make sure I can like at least preserve the lead, and then I think I can do fine other than that.
Well, who did you hear from that it's one of the hardest courses? Are you talking to Gavin Babcock or
Yep.
Sullivan Tipton? What did they have to say to you about what it's like out there?
Yeah, I forgot what Sully said, but Gavin was definitely like, if you shoot under par, it's actually a decent score. And I think he was just saying like, he was saying, what he said was there's not much stroke separation, which is exactly what Northwoods Black has, and that's how you know it's a hard course. So I won't be surprised, I guess, if I go out there and every hole is really hard. But I heard it's fair, and I'm cool with that. I'm cool with a hard, fair course. And, in the woods, you don't really usually have, like, fluky OB. I think it might have on a couple holes, but typically just playing in the woods is pretty pure disc golf as long as the lines are clean.
And what do you remember about your performance at the Ivy Hill course at Worlds last year?
It was actually very similar to my USDGC performance this year. It felt like I would get momentum. I started, I think, 2 of my rounds at Ivy, actually 5 through 5, which not many people did, considering I think the 5th hole is one of the hardest holes in the course. And I remember like just kind of being on fire, making a chase. I didn't have the greatest first round, just like I did at USDGC. And I'm feeling good, feel like I'm making a push. I get within like 2 or 3 of the lead. And then I remember I had like a 50-footer on like hole 7, and I hit cage, and it slow rolled in the water, and I had to re-putt, and I missed that. And it was like the quickest double in the world. And later on in that round, a couple holes later, similar roll away. I think on hole 10, it's that downhill, back uphill par 4, birdie putt, cage, roll all the way, maybe out of bounds. But it was just stuff like that happening, and it's like, to win tournaments, I mean, you can definitely play good enough to win tournaments with that happening, but it hurts your chances a lot. And it feels like the tournaments that I have been able to win this year, that stuff hasn't happened. I've gotten maybe some good fortune toward the end of the tournament, but definitely just not dumb stuff like that happening. So if you can avoid that, it's tough to definitely avoid it. Kind of like try to prevent it from happening. Like, it's probably going to happen at some point. If you miss a putt low, you're probably going to roll off the cage and go somewhere. But in terms of just game planning, that's all you can do. I think I just got to go back to that mindset I had at Worlds this year, where it's don't take any bogeys based off decision making or like lack of commitment. Like, commit to every shot. If it's an execution error, it's okay to get a bogey, but just don't make any dumb decisions. And it fared well at Worlds, so hopefully I can do that again.
Being so late in the season, is it at all difficult to kind of rally and refocus? You just played a major short week into the Tour Championship. Is that difficult?
I actually prefer it. I don't like having off weeks. I feel like I'll lose my rhythm. So, like, this year I actually wasn't really a fan of the Tour schedule for a couple reasons, because I know it finishes really heavy, like a bunch of 4-round events, playoff events. I wish it was a little more sprinkled out throughout the season, and I wish the start of the season was a little weighted more heavily toward those like important wins and stuff like that. And also because there's more gap weeks. So I was having a tough time early on in the season, kind of like just understanding my flow and my rhythm, and it's always tough to like mentally convince yourself on just feeling comfortable in the course. And like I said, those last like 7 tournaments I played, it felt like no matter what, I was going to be in contention for the win at the end of the week, no matter how bad my first round was. Green Mountain Championships, I shot my lowest rate round of the season and lost the event by 2 strokes. And Paul played a really good event through 4 rounds. So to even have a chance there, I think just showed that, like, as long as I'm comfortable, even if my game doesn't feel good, I can still play solid. So my goal this year, just to finish out strong. If I can get this last win, that'd be awesome. We still have the match play event, which would also be another great win to have. But I definitely want to end on a high note, just like I did last season. I have 6 wins right now, so if I could get that 7th, I'd be satisfied with the season. Obviously, didn't get the 2 majors like I did last year, but I got the Worlds, and that's what I was really aiming for. So, gonna go in this week, hopefully focused, and just trying to stay in the mix the whole time.
Last question, Ganon, and real quick, who are you most thankful that you have strokes over?
I'm not gonna lie, like, Ricky just gonna find a way to will his way. It's something about the Tour Championship. He always like just can win it somehow. So definitely him. I think Paul is playing really good right now, and he's hungry after last week. So I'd say those 2 guys, Ricky and Paul.
2 of the greats looking to chase you down. All right, Ganon. Thanks for your time here, and best of luck with that stroke lead.